Most welcome to 1533 in Jonsered, outside of Gothenburg. Today we will go through a chapter in a book by Richard Bauckham, The Climax of Prophecy, Studies on the Book of Revelation from 1993. And this is chapter 11, entitled Nero and the Beast. That is Nero, the emperor, who reigned from 54 to 68 AD. Although the emperor Nero is not named in Revelation, his name plays a key role in it. For Nero Caesar is the name of the beast. To justify this statement, we must unravel the numerology of the beast, which will involve not only the number 666, but all the numbers associated with the figure of the beast in Revelation. Insight into Revelation's numerology will highlight the importance of Nero for John's portrayal of the beast, but will not in itself explain why or in what sense John identified the beast with Nero. To understand that, we must first trace the origin and forms of the pagan and Jewish expectation of the return of Nero, and to examine precisely how John has taken up and transformed the Nero legend, as Revelation 13:18 indicates. The history and legend of Nero will illuminate much that is otherwise enigmatic about an apocalyptic beast. But the real key to Revelation's accounts of the beast will be found to be not Nero alone, but a parallel and contrast, the historical and eschatological confrontation between Nero Caesar and Jesus Christ. And now to the first subsection, please, Hans.
Okay, thank you very much.
Numbers of the beast.
So I will continue, 1533. The numbers of the beast. The majority of modern scholars find a reference to Nero in Revelation 13:18, where the number of the beast is said to be 666. Since this number is also called the number of his name. John has usually and rightly been supposed to be employing the ancient practice of gematria, whereby any word could be given a numerical value. Since the letters of both the Greek and Hebrew alphabets were all used as numbers, it is possible to add up the numerical value of each letter of any Greek or Hebrew word and obtain the number of the word. This, it is generally supposed, is what it would be to calculate the number of the beast. John is inviting the reader who has intelligence to reckon the numerical value of the beast's name and find it to be 666. The practice of gematria is well attested in both Jewish and pagan circles in the ancient world. It was used in various ways, most relevant because of Revelation's specific phrase, the number of his name, are cases where a name is given a numerical value. Sometimes the number functions as a code to conceal the name or pose a riddle for the reader to solve. A graffiti found in Pompeii reads, "I love the girl whose number is 545. Presumably, the beloved herself is expected to recognize the numerical value of her name, but few others would take the trouble to work out which name was this numerical value. The Jewish and Christian Sibylline oracles use gematria in order to provide a degree of mystery or obscurity of reference appropriate in a prophetic text. For example, a prophecy of all the Roman emperors from Julius Caesar to Hadrian gives none of the names but provides the numerical value of the first letter of each of the names. A riddle concealing a name of God by gematria remains still unsolved. The name of the incarnate Son of God is said to be 888. The sum of Greek letters of the name Jesus. Anyone familiar with the Christian claim about Jesus would not find this difficult to solve, but in another instance in the Sibylline oracles, gematria is used rather differently. The numerical value of the name Rome 948 is taken to indicate the number of years the city of Rome will last from its foundation to its destruction at the hands of Nero, returning in the future. Here the point is not mystery, and the number is not a code. Rome is openly named. Rather, the number of Rome is taken to reveal something significant about the city. We should also note the method known as isopsephism of establishing a connection between two different words by showing that the numerical values are the same. It is interesting to observe that this method is employed in one of the Greek verses lampooning Nero with Suetonius, says circulated during this reign. A new calculation: Nero killed his own mother. The word neophyphon must invite the reader to discover that the numerical value of the name Nero is the same as that of kill his own mother. Thus, the popular rumor following the death of Agrippina that Nero had been responsible for her murder is confirmed by isopsephism. Isopsephism, that's a mouth cracker, this one, was also used in Jewish exegesis. One rabbinic tradition about the name of Messiah maintained that the Messiah would be called Menahem because his name has the same numerical value 138 as the word branch, which is the title of the Davidic Messiah in Zechariah. Another tradition found a reference to the angel Gabriel in Ezekiel 43:2, because the phrase many waters has the same numerical value 342 as the phrase angel Gabriel. The solution to the riddle of 666, which has been most widely accepted since it was first suggested in 1831, is that 666 is the sum of the letters of Nero Caesar written in Hebrew characters. Few of the many other solutions by gematria which have been proposed offer a name which the phrase the number of his name requires, and of those few which do this seems eminently the most preferable. It has also been suggested that the variant reading 616 can be explained by the same proposal, since if the Latin form Nero rather than the Greek form Neron is transliterated into Hebrew, so that the final N is omitted from, I can't read it, the numerical value becomes 616. There have been two major objections to the suggestion that 666 equals. One is the spelling of is defective. As Peake pointed out, the abnormal spelling could be accepted if you assume that John had some other reason for wanting the sum to become to 666. We shall shortly discover that he did have at least one reason for wanting precisely this number to be Nero's, but in fact that the defective spelling was used for Nero himself has now been shown by a papyrus documented in Aramaic from Murabat, which is dated in the second year of Nero Caesar. Murabat. Could it be that Murabat in itself is the seed of this, since it's an Aramaic? That's an interesting thought. The second objection is that John, writing in Greek for Greek-speaking readers in the cities of Asia, would not have done his gematria in Hebrew. To this, To this it may be replied that he could have count on having at least some readers who knew some Hebrew in each of the churches, and that if John found special significance in the numerical value of a name, he may well, as a Jewish Christian, have expected this significance to inhere in Hebrew rather than Greek letters. Moreover, we shall later suggest that John probably inherited the number 666 as equivalent to from Jewish Christian apocalyptic tradition, while is probably part of the solution to John's riddle. It is not the whole solution. We may suspect that John intends not merely to cloak a reference to Nero in mystery, but to point out that the numerical value of Nero's name has significance. The parallel with the verse about Nero quoted by Suetonius suggests that John may be employing isopsephism, and once alerted to that possibility, we can see that in fact he says as much. Let him who has intelligence calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. The number of the beast is also the number of a man. If the number of a man is the numerical value of Nero Caesar, what is the number of the beast? It so happens that the Greek word virion, when transliterated into Hebrew as has the numerical value of 666. This way of practicing gematria by calculating the value of a Greek word written in Hebrew letters is also found in the Greek Apocalypse of Baruch, which may well be roughly contemporary with or somewhat later than Revelation, and like Revelation was written in Greek. In 3 Baruch 4:3-7, Baruch is shown as a snake, Drakon, which drinks 1 cubit of water a day from the sea. But he is told that the sea is never diminished because it is replenished by 360 rivers. The figure is probably derived from the fact that the numerical value of Drakon written in Hebrew character is 360. In 410, the number of the giants who perished in the flood, cataclysmos, is said to have been 409,000, corresponding no doubt to the fact that the numerical value of cataclysmos written in Hebrew characters is numbers. The use of geometrica in 3 Baruch is rather less subtle than in Revelation, but shows that John must be following a method of doing geometria which was accepted in the circles which produced the Jewish and the Jewish Christian apocalypses. So it's interesting. Now we go into the apocalypses that we mentioned before, and of course This muraba'at is maybe the kernel in this reasoning. The murabat translates as the origin. It's in the middle of where it's dated from in Nero Caesar, which makes it magnificently interesting. I continue a little bit. I'll give it to you soon. Thus, John is saying that the number of the word beast is also the number of a man. The gematria does not merely assert that Nero is the beast. It demonstrates that he is. Nero's very name identifies him by its numerical value as the apocalyptic beast of Daniel's prophecy. Just as rabbinic tradition used isopsephism to demonstrate that Menahem is the name of the messianic branch of Zechariah's prophecy. Surprisingly, the variant reading 616 can also yield the same information. If the number 616 is simply written in Hebrew letters, it is 600 plus 10 plus 6, which translates as Phirion, the genitive form, which appears in the phrase ton arif mon, to Phirion in Revelation. The variant reading seems to represent a genuine alternative tradition about the number of the beast, which also yields the identification of Nero with the apocalyptic beast. Wow, it's very interesting. Well, Kalle, maybe you want to continue where I left off?
Oh, you can if you want. Do you want to continue or should I?
I can continue.
Okay, please.
Moving on to the sun displays. If, as the manuscript evidence strongly suggests, John himself preferred the number 666, this was probably because there are further mysteries hidden in this number. Unlike 616 and 666 has peculiar mathematical characteristics. It is a doubly triangular number, though it seems that this was not until 1912 that this was first recognized. By Vandenberg van Eysingen, whose name I heard before. Ancient mathematics inherited from the Pythagorean tradition an interest in numbers conceived as corresponding to geometrical figures. Those corresponding to two-dimensional figures are known as plane numbers. These can be divided into two types: those corresponding to figures with equal sides, triangular, square, pentagonal, hexagonal, etc., and those corresponding to figures with unequal sides, of which the most important are the rectangular numbers. Of all these plane numbers, much the most important were the triangular numbers, trigoni, the square numbers, tetragoni, and the rectangular numbers, heteromikis. These three types of numbers are closely related to each other and were frequently discussed in relation to each other. as for example in the mathematical works of Theon of Smyrna and Nicomachus of Gerasa. Although these mathematicians were writing in the 2nd century Anno Domini, many of their ideas about plane numbers were known to Philo of Alexandria, and so can be presumed to have been commonly known to educated people in the late 1st century Anno Domini. Discussions of John's use of the number 666, which recognize it as a triangular number, have usually treated triangular numbers in isolation. We shall appreciate the significance of 666 better if we recognize the relationships between triangular, square, and rectangular numbers. Pythagorean arithmetic represented numbers by figures made with pebbles. The three types of numbers, triangular, square, rectangular, trigoni, tetragoni, and heteromythiques. A triangular number is the sum of successive numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 3 and so forth. Thus 10 is the triangle of 4, the sum of all the numbers up to 4. The first 4 triangular numbers 1, 3, 6, 10 can be represented as equilateral triangles. Thus, an equilateral means that all sides are equal, so to speak. Rätlinjiga. Each triangle is formed by a series of numbers to be added, and the side of each triangle is equal to the last number in the series. The number of units in each case is the triangular number. A square number is the sum of successive odd numbers. 1 plus 3 plus 5, thus 16, is the sum of all numbers up to 7. Such a number is represented as a square, so that the first 4 square numbers 1, 4, 9, 16 can be represented thus, like squares. Each number added after 1 forms 2 sides of the square. So in this case, the side of each square is not the last number in the series. But what we call the square root. 16 is the sum of the odd numbers up to 7, but is of course the square of 4. 4 here and 4 there make 16, make a square. A rectangular number is the sum of successive even numbers. 2 plus 4 plus 6. Thus 20 is the sum of all the even numbers up to 8. 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 equals 20. Such numbers can be represented as rectangles in which one side is 1 unit longer than the other, so that the first 4, 2, 6, 12, 20 can be represented thus. And now we have four rectangles. Hence, a rectangular number can be thought of as the product of 2 successive numbers. 2 times 3 equals 6, 3 times 4 equals 12, and of course 4 times 5 equals 20. Not only did these 3 classes of numbers represent an obvious group, the sum of successive numbers, the sum of successive odd numbers, and the sum of successive even numbers. But also they are thought of in corresponding numbered series, e.g. the third triangular number corresponding to the third square number and the third rectangular number. The first 36 numbers in the free series are as follows. And here we have a rather hefty diagram here, but it seems to be correct. The relationships between these series make it quite easy to calculate the corresponding triangular, square and rectangular numbers. Thus, every rectangular number is double its corresponding triangle. For instance, 1332, the 36th rectangular, is twice 666, the 36th triangle. A square added to the number of its place in the series, which is the same as the square root, makes the corresponding rectangular 1296 plus 36, 1332. 2 consecutive triangular numbers make the square corresponding to the second of them. 630 plus 666 makes 1296. It is important to realize that a quite elementary acquaintance with these principles would make these numbers and their relationships easily accessible. For this way of understanding arithmetic, 666 is a remarkable number. In the first place, it is a doubly triangular number. In other words, it's the triangle of 36, and 36 is also a triangular number. The triangle of 8, such doubly triangular numbers are rare. The series runs 1, 6, 21, 55 and so forth. It seems rather unlikely that the number of the beast should be one of these numbers purely accidentally. Moreover, uniquely among these doubly triangular numbers, 666 looks like a doubly triangular number. 2 triangles have 6 sides. But thirdly, 666 is the triangle of the number 36, which is not only triangular, but also square. 6 times 6, 36. Numbers which are both triangular and square are even rarer than the doubly triangular numbers. The first three are 36, 12, 25. That 666 is the triangle of such a number makes it a very remarkable number indeed. The next such number is 750,925. These peculiarities of 666 would be of no importance to us if we could not show that John was aware of them and has exploited them. In fact, he was given some clues to the significance they had for him in the literary connections between 1318 and other passages of his works. Firstly, there is a connection between 1318 and 1719. In the 13, the number of the beast is introduced thus: Ode I Sophia estin o echon nun psifisato. Here is wisdom, let him who has intelligence calculate. A similar introduction is given in 17:9 to the interpretation of the seven heads of the beast. Ode o nous o echon saphian. Here is the intelligence which has wisdom. So we can see that in mathematics or geometria, looking at parallel or triple parallel, because it's actually triple, it's triangles, squares and rectangulars, to make a triple geometrical take on mathematics. And this is called geometria here. And to delve into these things gives wisdom. The resemblance between the two passages is clearly deliberate, and the variation between them typical of John's stylistic habit of varying the precise form of expressions he repeats. By omitting estin and exchanging the synonyms nous and Sophia, the first 7 words of 1318 become the first words of 17:9. John must have intended the formula to make a link between the two passages, which are in any case closely related. Chapter 13, which the riddle of the number of the beast concludes, introduces the figure of the beast from the sea. But 2 features of the description of the beast remain unexplained in chapter 13. His 7 heads and 10 horns. Even though the mortal wound received by one of the heads is a key event in chapter 13, the reader is not told what the heads represent, nor which of them is wounded. Explanation of the heads and the horns of the beast is reserved from 17:7, which is the second major passage about the beast in revelation. The explanation of the heads and the horns of the beast is introduced at this point because it is necessary for explaining the judgment of the harlot who rides on the beast. Harlot is a sort of prostitute. This will occur when the beast and his allies, the 10 horns, turn against the harlot and destroy her. Thus the repeated formula in 1318, 1709 links the two major complementary passages about the beast, and in each case introduces an explanation which involves numerical calculation. In 1779, the 7 heads of the beast are explained as 7 hills on which the woman sits. And I was just about to say 7 hills of Rome as well, but it comes actually down here. Just as in 1318, the formula may at first seem to introduce a riddle which conceals the identification of the beast as Nero. So in 1709, it may at first seem to introduce a riddle which conceals the identification of the harlot as the city of Rome, built on 7 hills. Roma Magnifica. So, to make a summary here, we have 3 corresponding tendencies. We have we have the square, we have the rectangular, and we have the triangular take on consecutive number series. I think maybe you remember we were talking about number series in connection with Paul Livingstone, and those were not complicated. The point was, even if in these non-complicated number series we don't know the result until we do them. And I think the phrase here give me a second here. Should have had the pen before, I realized. Here is the intelligence which has wisdom. By doing the series we understand. It's partly manual, it's partly thinking, but thinking and manual is the same. I was just thinking, Emperor Nero was not much of a doer. He was very un-Roman in that way. His successes were minor, almost passive person. I think about someone who's just beholding the world and thinking is enough. And of course his megalomania is well known. He set Christians ablaze for fun. Didn't seem to be any use of it even for the Romans. Let him who has intelligence calculate. That shows the importance of really doing it, executing the things. And it's very close to, at what we said, temporality. A God which is outside of temporality and space, we have made him a non-existence. It's a way of defying him. And here, by calculating, we can find out that this 666 could be the tendency of not doing anything, the passivity. For some odd reason, I really fell for the name the Aramaic name.
Murabat.
Murabat. I don't know. Stuck to my mind. Maybe it needs to be investigated further. But I see a connection here. This looks at the outside to be very complex, but by doing it by hand, the complexities disappears. You do it little by little, and it reminds me when I started math, trying to think of math without executing it by my hand always led to confusion, headaches. It leads to lack of confidence as well, lack of Sophia, if you like. By not doing math manually and try to think it instead, almost like this horrendous idea that God can think things, like Xenophanes. I think he was the first one to suggest that sort of God. A little point here, the Greeks were horrified by that expression. It was a diminishing of what God is into a sheer thinking faculty outside of creation. And speaking about the beast, doing that is a beastly thing indeed. The unreality of God by Newton or by Descartes also makes for the unreality of the human soul. We become soulless. We become passive as Nero, not doing anything, just spending our wealth and spending our heritage, leading to the demise both of the ones he persecuted and, of course, of Rome itself. He can hardly be said to bring glory to Rome by anyone. But it also shows the absolute importance of using your hand. If you don't do that, understanding will not come. There is no thinking understanding. That is the opposite of understanding. It is when you no longer understand, and no bigger sin could be, I can think, to say God is a thinking creature. Can be no worse, because then you decided he's outside of existence, because everything in this world is doing. There is no doing without existence and vice versa. A thinking God is maybe the God that rules Nero, maybe a beastly God. Maybe, Kalle, you have a comment?
Oh, I could. Let me see.
I think you
the
need
camera.
to put it.
I don't know what I did. I'm not using my hands properly.
I can take.
Oh yeah. I know.
Let's see, I can put a num. I think I was there.
So.
I'll hold it.
Amazing on here.
You can stand there and
And I need also the microphone.
Of course. I see the problem. There. The camera. There you go.
No. I liked the word genuine. Also the author number 616 could be genuine. So he's not dismissing the other variant. That is, it could. So he writes on page 387. The variant 3606 can be explained by the same proposal, since if the Latin form Nero rather than the Greek form Neron is translated into Hebrew, so that the final nun is omitted from this Greek Hebrew word, the numerical value becomes 616. So I like this and that. So both variants are genuine in one way or another. And it's a very impressive work by this Richard Bauckham.
And Neron is the nominative case of Nero.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And Nero is the vocative.
No, Nero, no. Greek form, yes. So Greek form is Neron, and the Latin form is Nero. So this was a fascinating paper, and this it was fun. This mean lamp, this Greek verses that was lampon in Nero, which Sutenus say circulated during his reign. A new calculation, Nero killed his own mother. They were Psephon. Must invite the reader to discover that the numerical value of the name Nero 1005 is the same as that of killed his own mother. So that's a little bit complicated, but you can figure out. You could even show to the viewer. So this is here the Greek word neopsiphon, and that becomes, if we can calculate, it's 1005. That means that Nero did so much. Now I don't have any more comments on this impressive chapter, but Richard Bauckham, I give it back to you if you want to say something to conclude.
I can do like this.
Oh,
wow.
Impressive.
Magic. Yes, we're looking into the geometry closer, but you see also the connection here between geometry and geometry and arithmetic. And the spatial thing of mathematics is something that we usually forget, but it's very helpful in understanding mathematics, that it's spatial also. And it's very helpful. Those triangles may seem to complicate things, but they are also good helpers. I say thank you very much from the woods here, and I'm going to make a turn here so you can see. We still don't have more than buds on most of the trees, except for linden trees, where some leaves slowly are coming out. Thank you very much from the woods, and have a very pleasant afternoon. Bye bye.